In 2018, doctors did something that had never been done before. A young girl was living with a rare and worsening genetic condition, one so uncommon that no treatment existed, and no company would ever build one, because the market was a single patient. So a research team decided to build a drug for her, and only her. They read the exact error in her genetic code, designed a molecule to answer that specific error, and moved from diagnosis to a personalized treatment in under a year. The medicine was named after her. It had a market of one. For most of history, that idea was pure fantasy. Drugs are designed for millions, tested on thousands, and priced for the average body. The notion of a medicine shaped around one person's unique biology belonged to science fiction. That barrier was never really about imagination. It was about time, cost, and computation. And those three walls are exactly what artificial intelligence is now beginning to lower. This is the story of how medicine might stop treating the average patient and start treating you. Walk into any pharmacy, and you are looking at a triumph of mass production. Millions of identical pills, each one manufactured for a statistical abstraction, the average patient. That model gave the world antibiotics, vaccines, and painkillers at scale. It saved uncountable lives, but it carries a quiet compromise built into every dose. You are not average. Your liver processes chemicals at its own speed. Your genes influence how a drug is absorbed, activated, or cleared. The same standard tablet can be perfect for one person, useless for another, and harmful for a third. Researchers have long known this. Studies suggest that many widely prescribed drugs work well for only a fraction of the people who take them. The rest get partial benefit, no benefit, or side effects. And then the process starts over with a different pill. For a century, we accepted this because we had no alternative. Designing individual medicine by hand was impossibly slow. The average was the best tool available. What changes now is that the average may no longer be the only option on the table. To understand personalized medicine, start with a simple truth. No two bodies run the same chemistry. Your genome, the roughly 3 billion letters of code inside your cells, is yours alone. It shapes how you build proteins, fight disease, and respond to treatment. Consider a single practical example. A gene family in your liver governs how quickly you break down certain medications. Depending on your version of these genes, a standard dose might clear your system in hours or linger far longer than intended. Same pill, same milligrams, completely different experience inside two different people. Now multiply that by thousands of genes, your microbiome, your age, your other conditions, and your environment. The number of variables that shape how a drug behaves in you is staggering. Far too many for a physician to calculate by intuition alone. This is the heart of the opportunity. Your biology already contains the instructions for what would work best. The problem has never been the absence of that information. The problem has been reading it and acting on it, fast enough to matter. That is precisely the kind of problem machines are built for. Artificial intelligence enters medicine not as a robot doctor, but as a reader of overwhelming complexity. Modern systems can take enormous streams of biological data, genetic sequences, protein structures, lab results, and find patterns no human could hold in memory at once. Sequencing a full human genome once cost a fortune and took years. Today, it can be done quickly and cheaply, producing a flood of data. The bottleneck moved from collecting information to interpreting it. That interpretation is where machine learning has quietly become extraordinary. Trained on vast libraries of biological research, these systems learn the grammar of life, how a change in one genetic letter can ripple into a misshapen protein, and how a molecule might be built to correct it. They do not get tired. They do not forget yesterday's studies. They read everything continuously. None of this makes the machine wise. It makes the machine fast and tireless at pattern matching. But in a field where the core challenge is matching your unique biology against every known treatment, speed and memory at superhuman scale change what is possible. For decades, discovering a new drug meant a brutal form of trial and error. Scientists would screen enormous chemical libraries, testing compound after compound, hoping something might bind to the right target. Most candidates failed. The average new medicine took over a decade and vast sums to reach patients. Then came a breakthrough in predicting how proteins fold. Understanding a protein's three-dimensional shape is central to designing a drug, because medicine works by physically fitting molecules together like a key in a lock. What once took years of laboratory work could suddenly be predicted by software in a fraction of the time. Newer systems go further. Instead of only searching existing chemicals, they can generate entirely new molecular candidates, proposing structures designed to fit a specific biological target. It is the difference between rummaging through a warehouse and sketching the exact tool you need. Picture the old way as searching a vast library by pulling every book off the shelf, one at a time, hoping to stumble on the right page. The new way is closer to knowing the exact sentence you need and asking for it directly. That shift from blind search to guided design is the quiet engine behind everything else in this story. This is still early, and prediction is not the same as a proven cure. But the direction is clear. The slowest, most expensive part of medicine, inventing the molecule, is exactly where these tools are cutting time most dramatically. There is a phrase quietly reshaping medical research: N of 1. In science, N means the number of subjects in a study. An N of 1 treatment is designed and tested for a single individual, a study with exactly one patient. For rare diseases, this idea is revolutionary. Millions of people worldwide live with conditions so uncommon that no company will ever fund a treatment. The economics simply do not work when the patient population is a few dozen people, or one. Personalized design changes that math. If reading a patient's exact genetic error and proposing a candidate molecule becomes fast and affordable, then building a treatment for a tiny group, or one person, stops being unthinkable. The girl whose story opened this film was one of the first. She will not be the last. The vision is not that every headache gets a bespoke drug tomorrow. It is that the people medicine has always left behind, the rare, the unusual, the statistically inconvenient, might finally move to the front of the line, because a market of one is no longer a dead end. Speed is the quiet revolution here. Traditional drug development is measured in years and often more than a decade from idea to approval. Every stage, target identification, molecule design, testing, has historically been slow, manual, and expensive. Personalized, AI-assisted approaches compress the earliest and most creative stages. Reading a genome, modeling a target, and proposing candidate molecules can now happen in a span that would have astonished researchers a generation ago. Some experimental personalized programs have moved from diagnosis to a first treatment attempt in months rather than years. It is important to be honest about limits. The design stage getting faster does not erase safety testing, manufacturing, and oversight, steps that exist to protect patients and cannot simply be skipped. Speed at the front of the pipeline does not mean instant medicine at the pharmacy counter. It helps to think of the drug pipeline as a long relay race. AI is running one leg, the design leg, far faster than any human team could. But the runners waiting at the later stages, the ones handling safety and manufacturing, still run at a human pace, and for good reason. A faster first leg does not mean the whole race is instantly won. Still, when the most time-consuming part of a century-old process starts collapsing from years toward weeks, the whole shape of medicine begins to shift. And that shift is what makes the next questions about proof, cost, and risk so urgent to get right. It is fair to ask, is any of this real or just a promise? The honest answer is that we are early, but the early evidence is genuine. Protein structure prediction, once a grand challenge, is now used by researchers around the world and has accelerated countless projects. Personalized treatments for individual patients with rare genetic conditions have been designed and administered, moving the N of 1 idea from theory into real clinics. AI tools now assist in screening and proposing drug candidates inside major research pipelines. What we do not yet have is a world where you walk in, hand over your genome, and walk out with a molecule built for you. That is the horizon, not the present. Most personalized successes so far are hard-won, expensive, and limited to specific conditions. Think back just 2 decades. Reading a single human genome was a global scientific milestone that consumed years and enormous budgets. Today, it is an ordinary test, quietly ordered and quickly returned. Nobody celebrates it anymore, precisely because it became routine. That is how a miracle becomes a tool. The pattern is familiar in technology. A capability appears first as a rare, costly achievement, then slowly becomes routine and affordable. Sequencing followed that path. The open question is whether personalized drug design follows it too, and how fast. The evidence says the direction is set, even if the timeline is not. No honest look at this future can skip the failures, because they are as real as the promise. Personalized, AI-assisted medicine has serious limits that responsible researchers openly acknowledge. First, prediction is not truth. A model can propose a molecule that looks perfect on screen and behaves badly in a living body. Biology is full of surprises that computation does not capture. A confident prediction is a starting point, never a guarantee. Second, data can be biased. If the genetic databases behind these systems overrepresent some populations and ignore others, the resulting tools may work far better for some people than for others, quietly deepening existing gaps in care. Third, safety cannot be rushed. The tragedies of medical history often came from moving too fast. The careful stages of testing exist precisely because a plausible idea can still cause harm. Compressing discovery must never mean compressing the checks that protect patients. The realistic summary is this: AI is becoming remarkable at the design half of medicine, and it remains blind to much of what happens once a molecule meets the messy reality of a human body. If a drug can be built for one person, who pays for it? This is the question that could decide whether personalized medicine becomes a shared future or a privilege for the few. Today, the most advanced personalized treatments are extraordinarily expensive. A therapy designed and manufactured for a single patient carries costs that no ordinary family could absorb alone. Early personalized medicine risks becoming something only the wealthy or the exceptionally lucky can access. But cost curves in technology have a habit of falling. Genome sequencing collapsed from a fortune to an afternoon's affordable test. If the tools that design and produce personalized medicine follow a similar path, what is astronomically expensive today could become merely expensive tomorrow and routine the decade after. There is a deeper tension here worth naming. A treatment built for exactly one person can never benefit from the economies of scale that made ordinary medicine cheap. Mass production works because millions share the cost of the same pill. Personalized medicine deliberately breaks that model, which is part of its promise and part of its price. Whether that happens is not guaranteed. It depends on choices: how research is funded, how manufacturing scales, how health systems decide to share the cost of the rare and the individual. The technology alone does not answer the question. Society does. And that answer will shape who this future is actually for. If medicine becomes more personal, the familiar pharmacy does not vanish, but its role could change profoundly. For a century, the pharmacy has been a place of mass distribution. Shelves of identical products, made for everyone, dispensed to anyone with a prescription. A more personalized model puts pressure on that idea. If treatments are increasingly tailored to individuals, the center of gravity shifts from mass manufacturing toward diagnosis, data, and precision production. The value moves from the shelf to the design. This does not mean the disappearance of pharmacists, who remain essential guides through an increasingly complex system. It means their expertise may matter more, not less, as patients navigate treatments built around their own biology. The routine pill counter may shrink while the advisory role grows. Every major industry reshaped by technology has followed a version of this pattern. The low-skill, high-volume tasks contract, and the high-skill, interpretive tasks expand. Medicine's supply chain is unlikely to be an exception. The question is not whether the pharmacy survives, but what it becomes. So, when does any of this touch your life? Look first at the near horizon, roughly the next 5 years, where the changes are likely to be real but modest. Expect personalization to spread quietly, not dramatically. More treatments guided by your genetics, where a doctor checks how your body is likely to handle a drug before prescribing it. More AI tools working behind the scenes in research labs, speeding the earliest stages of discovery. More personalized therapies for rare conditions, still rare and costly, but growing in number. What you probably will not see in this window is a walk-in, custom drug-on-demand experience. The pipeline from design to safe delivery remains long, and the guardrails remain firmly in place, as they should. The near-term reality is less like a revolution and more like a tide. Individually small changes that, taken together, steadily move medicine from treating the average toward considering the individual. If you are paying attention, you will notice the language shifting from the standard treatment toward the right treatment for you. Now look further, to the 10 to 15-year horizon, where the possibilities become genuinely striking and genuinely uncertain. In an optimistic version of this future, personalized design becomes routine for a growing range of conditions. Reading your biology and matching or building a treatment around it could move from heroic exception to standard practice. The cost curve falls far enough that tailored medicine reaches ordinary patients, not just the fortunate few. The rare disease community, long neglected, finally gains real options. But there is a cautious version too. Progress could stall on safety, on cost, on the stubborn complexity of the human body. Prediction may prove harder to translate into cures than today's excitement suggests. The gap between what a model can design and what a body will accept is wide, and it may narrow slowly. History offers a useful warning in both directions. The same experts who overestimated technology in the short term often underestimate it in the long term. People predicted flying cars and missed the smartphone. So the wise stance is humility. Expect the near future to move slower than the hype, and the distant future to arrive in a shape nobody quite predicted. The honest forecast lives between these two. The direction is clear. The speed is not. Anyone who tells you they know exactly when personalized medicine becomes universal is guessing. What we can say is that the machinery to make it possible is being built right now. Standing at the edge of this shift, what should an ordinary person actually do? The answer is calmer and more practical than the headlines suggest. First, understand that personalization is coming gradually, so treat it as a direction, not a miracle waiting next week. Be curious, but be patient. Second, learn the basics of how your own health data works. Genetics, records, testing. Because in a personalized future, understanding your own biology becomes a genuine advantage. Third, hold on to healthy skepticism. When you hear that a machine has cured something, ask the quiet questions. In how many people? Proven how? At what cost? The most valuable skill in this era is not blind faith in technology, and it is not blind rejection of it. It is the ability to tell a real result from a confident promise. And finally, keep your human doctors close. In every credible version of this future, the machine is a powerful tool in expert hands, not a replacement for the judgment, care, and responsibility that medicine ultimately requires. We began with a drug built for a single person, a medicine with a market of one. It is worth ending by asking what that story really means. For all of history, medicine has been a compromise between what we could measure and what we could produce. We treated the average because the individual was out of reach. Now, for the first time, the individual is coming into focus, your genes, your chemistry, your specific version of a shared human problem. That is a profound shift, and it deserves neither fear nor hype. The machines entering medicine are not wise, not conscious, and not doctors. They are extraordinary readers of complexity, and in a field defined by complexity, that is enough to change what is possible. The future of medicine may not be a robot in a white coat. It may be something quieter and stranger. A treatment shaped around the one patient who has always been overlooked in a system built for millions. You. Whether we build that future carefully is the only question that truly matters.